Hello, I'm Armand Kodaya. I'm a 24-year-old individual of high-functioning autism. This video is a response to Bumps and DK's video, Autism Pretending to be Normal. It's a very intriguing video, and I highly recommend that you take a look at that video. He has a lot of interesting things to say. The audio is a little tough to hear because it was raining outside when he made the video, but nonetheless, it's a very, very interesting thing to see. And I want to say that I highly recommend that other people on the autism spectrum, our parents, whatever, make other video responses to other videos, not necessarily mine, but just other people, so we can uh, work together, get our ideas across, and come across some common ground that I think will be helpful moving forward into the future for autism. So in Bumps and DK's video, he essentially talks about how especially in his family and other social situations, he sees everyone, they seem happy because they're able to form strong bonds, and he feels a disconnect. And no matter, he tries to be a certain way, but it's an act. It's artificial in a way, I guess is what he's saying. And usually he isn't fully there. He knows it should be a certain way, and very rarely he feels a way. Sometimes, he achieves a state of feeling that bondness, I think is what he was saying towards the end there. And when he does, he feels like Superman, but that's a very hard state to come by. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. So, in relation to his video, I'm going to discuss, some of the things he brought up, and I'm going to bring up some of my own inputs. In terms of my family, minus my immediate family, I've definitely, in the past, when there were get-togethers, I've really stayed away from everyone. And now our family's pretty far apart and everything, so I don't even get to those get-togethers anymore anyway. But when they did happen, I was much younger, and I just didn't care then. So I might have seen the social bonds, but I just didn't care about it. Sometimes I saw someone that I thought might seem interesting, and I'd be afraid to talk to them, and so that would occur, and so that's kind of like something to overcome, and still sometimes to overcome. I sometimes see people and I find them interesting, and then I won't talk to them because I don't know, I put myself down, or I don't want to embarrass myself, I don't want to embarrass them. That's one of the biggest things. I feel like if I will be sometimes embarrassing someone by talking to them, because I feel like it might be inappropriate to talk to this person in such a social situation, and I don't know what necessarily appropriate is sometimes, or what's the right thing to say. And so moving forward, the biggest time, sometimes, yeah, I would say that I've tried to pretend to be normal. Nowadays, I'm trying to be more about myself. Sometimes I try to push myself to be a little bit more outgoing than I really am, at least in here. But overall, the biggest time that I've really tried to push myself to be, normal, neurotypical, whatever you wish to call it, was in the community college days. And my mom, I got into the honor society, and I tried to push myself into these things. My mom really wanted me to be involved and do these social things. And I was working with my speech therapist, and she also wanted to try to push me into those social things, and I felt awful. A lot of these social things I did not like. I did not feel like myself. I hated myself during that time period. And I didn't even know why I was doing it. The only reason why I was doing it was to try to please my mom. And one of the big things is, if you're trying to pretend to be normal, well, it's not necessarily about pretending to be normal. It's about, if you have autism, it's what do you want? The question is, do you want friendships, or do you want to try to blend in and try to be popular? It's how well do you know yourself, really? And as I get to know myself more, I find myself able to find the type of people that I want to form a connection with, and not try to be too much different than I really am. Try not to be too neurotypical, normal, whatever. And so that's a good thing, because the more I understand myself, that's a better thing. So moving forward, I would say that I don't want to be normal. I want to be who I am. Or there really is such a thing as normal. I don't want to have a lot, I want to have a few friends where I can develop a deep relationships while being myself, essentially. That's what I want. I want to be myself, but form those relationships. And I think a lot of people on the autism spectrum want to do that, and we don't know how 100%. And I think it's about, you just have to find the right people and the right interest. It's much more deeper than that, too. And so recently, what I find myself doing, I find myself being a lot by myself, but when I try to, when it comes to humor or just trying to capture people's attentions more, I was in a party the other day, and I saw myself trying to not being, at times not being 100% myself. When I was doing, I was acting like my brothers a little bit, because they talk randomly and they do these humorous things, and so I try to do some of that. It seemed to be getting a positive reaction, and so that kind of becomes my identity in a way. Just copying what other people do, like my brothers. If I think it's something that people react positively to, then I find myself doing it. But the good thing about this party I was at, it was a birthday party, is that there was a lot of common ground and interest. A lot of interest in like science, space, science fiction, comic books, and so these were like nerdy type people, and so it was easier to talk to them about stuff, easier to blend in. And sometimes, being autistic, maybe you need to find these nerdier type people, and there'll be both outgoing people in those cliques, or whatever you want to call them, social groups, and there will also be a lot of introverts, autistic type people, and so when you're with them, I think it's a lot easier to blend in more and be yourself. But I think when you try to force yourself to maybe be with your family, perhaps the immediate, beyond the immediate family, you just can't grasp them. And I think it's okay to not be a part of that. Or you see these other college groups, whatever, and you can't be a part of them. And you're not meant to be. You are yourself, and you need to find. It's better to try to be who we are and express ourselves as best as we can while forming close bonds. And so I think by finding the right groups, that's the way to do it. And how to do that's a good question. I think my last King, I talked about how I thought college was a great place to find people of similar interests, and I think that is. And I have my 2-year degree, and I'm thinking about going back for my bachelor's. And one of the main reasons, I have my book, A Boy in Wonderland, my autobiography. It's being rewritten. I'm very confident. It's a great book and everything. So I'm not necessarily really going there for the degree 100%. I'm going there more to network more and to try to form some of these social bonds that are lacking in my life, because I don't have too many of these things, and I think that's a good way to form it. Yeah, it might sound terrible that that my plans are to go back, for a lot of social reasons, but I also think it'll help develop, I'm going to study some autism-like things too. I think they, maybe have a degree in autism, whatever, but what I'm getting at is I'm saying that this will help me develop more as a person. Of course, one thing that I do notice is that, even now, I sometimes don't act 100% myself. I sometimes still pretend to not be I pretend to be normal. And I think one reason is that I'm not yet 100% sure of what I want. Or the biggest thing is I'm not 100% sure how I want others to see me. I think that's the biggest thing about us individuals with autism. We're not 100% sure how we want others to see us. And I think that forces us to try to be a certain way, how we think we need to be seen, instead of how we want to be seen. And I think the biggest thing is perhaps we need to stop worrying. And I need to stop worrying about how others see me, and I just need to be myself at 100% and allow others to either appreciate me or not. I think that's the best way of going about it. And even today, I still do things, social things, and I still sometimes feel a little bit separated, like the guy in the video I'm responding to felt separated at times. Even with my autism support group that I run, I sometimes feel separated, especially because I'm running it and I feel like I have to be a little bit detached to, because I have to be in charge, and so I sometimes feel like, I put myself out there the most, and that kind of stuff, but I still don't feel 100% attached to it. And so I think the ultimate question is, what do you want to be? How do you want others to see you? Don't pretend who you want to be.